We're live. Welcome to the well, it's not a recap show. What the hell is this show? Welcome to the instant reaction show. Thank you, sir. I wish I had more to react to. I didn't think that was the best day of football. Houston was probably the biggest, in my opinion, the biggest spot of the day. I mean, the Bills game was huge and everything, but that Houston game, to me, there are some ripple effects to that game that I think people aren't really thinking about too much. At least Tony Romo wasn't at the end of the game, where he kind of obviously next week we have 3 games I think that are going to decide who's got the lead in their division. One being Pittsburgh and Baltimore, which feels like 2 teams going nowhere. Respectfully, the Packers and the Bears, who suddenly are the NFC number 1 seed right now. And then the third one will be Jacksonville and Indy. And I can't help but think that people are overlooking the prospect of the Texans getting back in this race and possibly winning it. You know, if you're going to look at, you know, Indy plays Jacksonville twice down the stretch here, but pull up the schedules. I did a blind poll earlier with the guys in the room and asked them, you know, whose schedule would you rather have? And obviously the other teams have a game up. But Houston currently has the tiebreak with Indy, where they end up in that situation. At the end of the year, they have the home game. So they just, you know, so I'm looking at this thing and I'm saying to myself, you know, you got at Chiefs, Cardinals, Raiders, at Chargers. Those are all winnable games the way the Texans are playing right now. And when you have a defense like that, holy shit, Cowboy Reed just fell in his chair. The chair broke. A pretty decent chair, too. Damn, that's the broken one. Yeah. No, you're good, player. Is your ass okay? Yeah. I shouldn't say. Whoa. Dude fell out of his chair, I'm talking about. So, anyways, you look at everybody's concerned about Cowboy Reed. He's fine. The chair's in bad shape. Holy shit. RIP to that chair, dude. Yeah. Interesting looking chair. Somebody get the gator for that chair. Okay. So Chiefs, Cards, Raiders, Chargers. That chair is fucked. Chiefs, Cards, Raiders, Chargers. That's the Houston Texans schedule down the stretch. And then, you know, for instance, you look at Indianapolis, at Jags, at Hawks, Niners, Jags. So, you know, some tough games for them. I'm not saying the Texans are going to do it, but I'm not saying that at 2 a.m. I got back home from the bar last night and didn't put in Houston to win the division at like plus 700 odds or something like that. I don't remember. It's a little hazy. The guys saw my ticket here, so I'm not bullshitting you. I just had that intuition last night when I got home from Dirty Nelly's celebrating a Virginia victory over Virginia Tech. Commonwealth Cup, yes, I was 0-4. But I didn't feel 0-4 last night watching that game. We damn near shut those boys out. We have a quarterback that looks like an accountant, and he sought contact at the pylon when he could have just trotted in the end zone to go up a couple scores in that game. We absolutely alphaed those guys at home. It was awesome. So I had to go out to the bar last night. But anyways, yeah, put in Houston to win the division, and we'll see what happens. I think what's interesting about Houston is you get CJ Stroud back and he looks fine. Like, you know, he missed some balls, he overthrew some balls, but he looked, with the run game, the way it's developed through the year, a little bit more in rhythm to me. The offense looked more in rhythm to me. I think, you know, it's 2 sides of the story here, with the Colts side of it being, you know, they don't have pass rush. And we talked about manufacturing pass rush, but when Sauce Gardner leaves a game like this, you know, you lose half of that coverage equation, and you're also kind of thrown off your game because of the fact that you have been running a ton of man since you acquired Sauce Gardner, and now you're down Sauce Gardner. So from a game plan standpoint, you lose him, right? You also have a quarterback with a fractured fibula. which not for nothing is a funny thing to get out. I know the agent has to get that out so that people know that Danny Dimes is playing hurt, and Danny Dimes threw some beautiful balls in this game. Like, honestly, he's doing a good job toughing it out. And in the second half, he came out and threw some nice balls with touch. Yeah, I didn't notice it so much when he was throwing the ball. I noticed it that they're not going to move him off the spot. They can't. And D'Amico Ryans, there was a 2-play sequence early in this game when Toto ran. This is the kind of speed bumping I don't want to assign to the wrong guy, but Jonathan Taylor, I think, was the running back in protection, and he just it was like he wasn't there. And then the next play, Will Anderson's big ass is standing there, and he's parking his F-350 in the right over the center, Bortolini, and it was just an ugly deal. And that was indicative to me of, hey, I'm a coach who knows that the opposing quarterback has a fractured fibula. And you could also tell the way Shane Steichen called the game, right? But now this is a couple weeks on end for Indianapolis, like going back weeks now. They had the 6-turnover game against Pittsburgh, who's not a very good team. I'll get to them in a second. And, off of that, they go to London, and they don't convert a third down for eons. And you end up in a game like this, and Houston's defense just looks like they kind of got your number. I mean, Jonathan Taylor's held to a pretty modest day's work, and I think more than anything for the Texans, they come out, and I think Indy in this game, if you're Indy, you want to start fast, right? You want to get out to a lead. The Texans probably not built to come from behind, although the passing game looked better. And you can't plan for the Sauce Gardner injury. But, Indy comes out and they fall flat on their face the first 3 possessions or whatever it is. Well, I think Houston has done a good job of this in a couple games this season where they get the ball early. One of them was Denver, where they were just dominating time possession and getting into the red zone and not scoring. But today they were actually able to punch in a couple of those opportunities in the second possession of the game for them. The first one for them personally, they took the ball for I want to say 6-7 minutes. And, that sort of thing can stabilize an offense like that. So I love the fact that they were always on schedule today. I don't feel like they took a lot of negatives. That's just a feeling I have watching them. That helps the passing game. That helps the run game. That helps everything. And so, staying on schedule is big. Also love the look getting Nick Chubb out on the perimeter and in the red zone. I like seeing Dalton Schultz blocking his ass off down in the red zone. Like, there were some good things going on for that team that's customarily had a lot of trouble there. Now, you did have the 4th and 1, and I think the 3rd and 1 before it, where you quarterback sneak into a pile of bodies and you can't move anybody. And that's a problem. But you saw, it was a bad day for quarterback sneaks generally. You saw Indiana Jones not being able to take quarterback sneak, presumably because of his fibula, and you've got somebody else taking the snap and you fumble it. And so there were some gotta-have-it situations that early in the season when we talked about Indianapolis being very good in those moments, they were not today. And do I worry about Indy? Yeah, I do worry about Indy at this point. If Daniel Jones is compromised from a mobility standpoint, I've always worried about the lack of pass rush there. If you have 2 all-world corners, great. But if Sauce Gardner's calf lingers or whatever it is, then that's going to be a problem. Because they don't have DeForest Buckner, who they miss dearly. I mean, we were talking about today, not a world-beating run defensive team before this stretch, but I always felt like with Defoe on the field, they could create negatives on first down with Defoe and Stu on the field. Now you're down one of those guys. You don't get people behind the sticks. You don't have one of your great corners out on the field. Those edge rushers that are pretty good, it kind of becomes a glaring issue. And so I do have worries about them. But I can tell you I don't care much about this game. I'm like, there's people here that are like, why are you talking about the AFC South? It's just an interesting race to me. The Jags absolutely curb stomped the Titans today, and they will meet next week again for the temporary first place spot, because Houston's coming for it. They just are. I just have this feeling. Maybe they won't. Maybe they'll regress and become the team they were for most of the season. But can you imagine, Texans fans, and the offensive line did a really good job today. That's another thing that, it's nice to see. And the young receivers are growing up. So this is one of those things that, maybe they can get better. You were down, like, if you're a Texans fan, you were down to the Jags, like multiple scores, and D'Amico Ryans and the owner ladies behind him, and she's staring a hole in the back of his head, and they found a way to fucking win that game, and now here they are. They were on life support. So, by the way, Azeez Al-Shaair left for a moment. We feared concussion here, but then we quickly realized that I don't think he can get a concussion. I don't think Azeez Al-Shaair gets concussions. He's a hammer, not a nail, dude. Also, I imagine a scenario where they're like, all right, Azeez, you have a concussion. And then he threatens the concussion evaluators and makes them put him back on the field. He's just a fucking dog, dude. And they absolutely need him out on the field. He is just an absolute run and hit, tackling machine, tone setter for that group. The tax men, some dudes were paying taxes out there today. Bad drop by Josh Downs late in the game. Josh Downs had some great moments, had some really bad moments. They need the consistency. They just shipped a guy out of there who's not consistent, Nate Mitchell. They need Josh Downs to be the, in a game like that, and I turned to the guys in the third quarter when he was making play after play. I said, you absolutely need a guy like Josh Downs in a game like this. You need him to make that catch at the end of the game. So what are the other deals? Moving early to late, so we'll get to the Steelers in a minute. But the Panthers, man, I got to talk about the Panthers shocking the LA Rams, who are a juggernaut. They looked like it last week. Most weeks they look like it. Matt Stafford's on this MVP tear, and this is the quintessential NFL football game. Double-digit line, right? Rams just absolutely smoked the Bucs at home. I left at halftime. I was there. I left at halftime. I just wanted to go home. I'd seen enough. I said to somebody after that trip, I was like, you have to see Matt Stafford play football in person. I played against him, but like to see it from a suite or see it from like the upper deck or something where you have a vantage point and you see the way they create space and spread the field, you're like, man, I have a hard time imagining anybody beating them the way they're playing. Okay. Just smoked the Bucs at home. Panthers looked off rhythm on Monday night against the San Francisco 49ers, who, by the way, are playing better defensively. Salah's a great coach. And then you had this today, quintessential NFL game, sleepy moment, trap game, whatever you want to call it. Like, you can't get beaten in this league by anybody, pretty much. And there's always an oh shit moment for a team that's favored heavily when they go on the road and they end up in a situation where, like, you end up in a trap game. It kind of feels like somebody shut the door and you got to fight your way out of the bar. Like, Sons of Anarchy type shit going on the road for the Rams. And that moment for me was when Stafford threw that pick six. He threw that pick six. I think it was the possession after the pick in the end zone. And before that pick in the end zone, which was preceded by a Derek Brown tip. The down before that interception, he's throwing the ball to the pylon, and I think it was the flat player just got good depth, and it wasn't there. He threw it anyways, and it could have gone the other way. And even the ball he threw to Devontae Adams down in the red zone for the touchdown on the RPO looked like it was a little shaky. There was a ball late in the game where Puka Nacua is running it out. It's a key third down, and he puts the ball on his inside shoulder, not away from the defender, in harm's way. And just one of those games, and we've seen a couple of them this year. As good as Matt Stafford's been, I think about like much of the Eagles game, I remember him missing balls. Like, he was just a little bit off. It was one of those days he was a little bit off. The Panthers made him pay. My Mac battery is low, so Cowboy Reed, if you can still walk, come over here and make sure that's plugged in so we don't get a sudden power issue here. But I just thought it was like one of those beehive situations where you fuck up once in the red zone, okay. You fuck up twice, and you let the other team score on defense at home at Bank of America Stadium, which was loud. Dave Canales said it was wet and they were loud. That was the direct quote. And watching on TV, I was blown away by not only how hard it was raining at times in this game. Like, I always talk about the movie The Fan, which is a cult classic. It's a baseball movie. I think it's Robert De Niro. Yeah, Robert De Niro, Wesley Snipes. That's the IMDb on that thing. But anyways, there's a scene in the movie where they shouldn't be playing through this rainstorm in San Francisco, and Snipes is up at bat, and like you can't even see a foot in front of your face. That's what I felt like it was in the third quarter. And you're in a dogfight with the Panthers, and it's raining cats and dogs, and Bryce Young is the prince is driving the ball down the field over and over again, and it felt like the Panthers, to me, were content getting to fourth and short all day long. They were content pushing the chips to the middle of the table and saying, fuck it, let's just do this thing on fourth down. What you found yourself in a ball game with the Rams. You can do one of two things. You can play it safe or you can go for the jugular. They went for the jugular all day long. Bryce put his balls in the wheelbarrow and they threw the ball on fourth down. Dude, they ran the ball on 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4 all day. And, there was the drive in particular out of the half where it was coming down and they just found ways to make it happen. The 24-21, the touchdown that they go up 24-21, it's a dime to Coker, and I think that's your moment in the second half where it's like, damn, okay, we really have it. Sometimes you assume your team's so good you can just fight your way out of it when you're on a team like this, and this was a day they couldn't because the other guys were playing ball, man. And even when Puka caught that ball with one hand before they go up the final time, 28-20, whatever it was, I lost track. There's too much scoring in this game, but Puka had that incredible one-handed catch. It was probably the best one-handed catch all day. I thought Brock Powers had an incredible catch in the end zone. That was insane. Kenny Gainwell had a great catch in that 4 p.m. game. But this was a fucking catch, and it's the kind of thing where if you're the Panthers and you don't have good vibes on your team and that dude catches that ball on the sideline, you kind of feel like, it was fun. It was fun Cinderella story tonight, but we're going to lose this game because these guys are just that good. Well, they took the ball and scored. Bryce Young took the ball and scored, and they did it again on fourth down. And Coker really helps. Getting him back really helps. Tep McMillan's a stud. I think it's funny with the Panthers. Like, they've been underdogs in pretty much every game they played in this year. And they found ways to beat teams like Dallas, Green Bay, the Rams. What do you do with this team? The quality wins that they have under their belt without the household names on this football team, with a quarterback that everybody said was a bust. Not me. I like the guy. I've been consistent on that. Every 2 weeks you hear me talk about it. Every 2 weeks. You hate to be the team that plays 2 weeks after the Panthers have a good football game, because that's kind of who they are right now. They're just up and down and up and down. And that's part of growing up as a team. When this team grows up, I really do believe in the quarterback. You have to consider where they are, dude. I mean, they're not supposed to be in this thing, and they're in this thing. Underdogs in pretty much every game this year. And it was funny. You had this, I saw a funny meme because I love Panthers Reddit because, I like fans that are like happy to be here, man, Like it's not a doom and gloom thing. They're used to being Panthers fans, right? Just like that stadium to me has probably been empty for, the vast majority of the time since Cam Newton was there. And today it was raucous, man. You could feel it. So there's got to be a lot of excitement. But I always go to Panthers Reddit to get a good chuckle. And there was a funny little meme, and it was like a banner, and it said NFC South 2025 Division Champs, 3:45 p.m. to 3:50 p.m. because the Bucs found a way to pull it out against the Cardinals. So hey, Panthers fans, like, I don't know if this is your year, but you are building something. And I think you can see the vision with the big receivers outside. Now, it hasn't hit at 100% clip, but like McMillan's a big body. Xavier Legette, who hasn't figured it out yet, is a big body. Coker's a big body. And Young talked about that. I trust my guys. There's no big conversation, no big hoorah. Again, for me, I'm super grateful to have guys like that on the perimeter that I trust in need to have situations and fourth downs. Trust them with one-on-ones. Trust them with 50-50 balls. Trust them if they're more open, whatever it may be. And he has trust for those guys. And I think he's trusting those guys, and I think he's earning the trust of his teammates in the process. I mean, it was a big game. They didn't have J.C. Horn, they didn't have Morig out there. They were missing guys, and to finish it with a Derek Brown strip sack like that, those are the plays you live for as a defensive lineman. Wanham picks the guard. Brown works off of him, takes the ball off of Stafford. Do you know how fucking good that feels? A home game. It's raining outside. People are loud, dude. You're a pig in shit. And all you do when you put your hand in the dirt in a situation like that as a defensive lineman is like you're playing the lotto every play. You're like, it could be me. If he just pats it one more time, I can be the hero in this game. And over the course of your career, even if you have a really great career, like you don't get a ton of walk-offs. And that wasn't a walk-off because Bryce Young had to go hit a 3rd and 6 to a Coker. But that's a D lineman's dream right there. I mean, you just feel like you're in hero mode, dude. That Derek Brown, whatever he's doing right now, he's feeling good. And you know, they had some guys down and they got it done. I see the vision. I do. I see the vision. And, you know, this is the last thing I'll talk about. Niners and Browns, we'll talk about this tomorrow. You know, the reason I gave out the Niners is because they're just an adult football team. Like in a situation we got 30-mile-per-hour winds, the weather might not be perfect, although chalk it up to the many games where you see the forecast on Friday, you're like, they're not going to be able to see each other. And then you see whoever it is down on the field doing the whatever it is, and they're like, yeah, it's pretty clear down here. Like, it's not going to be a problem to throw the ball 12 yards today. It's not going to be a problem to throw swing screens and dump downs and you know, work the ball down the field methodically. And so I just felt like, you know, the Niners, as bad as Brock Purdy was on Monday night, again, this is the NFL. That was like 6 days ago. It might as well be eons ago. All we have to do is run our offense, keep Myles Garrett from killing us. I said last week Myles Garrett is going to break the sack record against Tennessee. I told you he's going to have 1 or 2, probably 1 against the Niners today. He had 1, and I think next week he breaks it with a hat trick, and he might have 4. He's gonna have 26 sacks this year. 26 sacks. Do you know how hard it was for me to have 13? I still have my jersey, 13th sack. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, oh, it's a 2-14 team. Really hard to do. This guy is playing in the Bermuda Triangle, and he's going to have $250,000 this year. And when you play the Cleveland Browns, not taking anything away from the other players, fly on the wall, I want a supercut of the first 5 minutes of every offensive coordinator's preparation, the first meeting of the week when they go to play the Browns. It's quiet. The OC walks in the room. It's probably some variation of a Myles Garrett play or a Myles Garrett picture. A picture will do up on the projector. And that's the first fucking thing we're going to do is we're going to try to keep this guy from wrecking the game. He wrecks him anyways. He's that good. I think we've seen enough. Right? I don't care how bad this team is. He's defensive player of the year. He's going to break the fucking he's going to break the record. So somebody says not better than LT. I don't want to take anything away from LT. LT, you know, it's different eras, but if you put Myles Garrett on an NFL field in the 80s, the National Guard would show up. I'm just telling you. There would be legislation. There was guys in the 80s that some of them look like, yeah. So Myles Garrett would probably, and I know back in the day they didn't throw as much, and I saw Lawrence Taylor. He was unbelievable. But like just to definitively be like he ain't Lawrence Taylor, it's like the Aaron Donald thing. It's like it's all different eras, man. I saw Lawrence Taylor chase outside zone away down from left outside linebacker, and he instead of chasing it down on the backside, he ran the front side and made a TFL. Dude, it was fucking crazy. No question. Not taking anything away from LT, but I think he's in the numbers don't lie, dude. This guy's going to have 26 sacks in the NFL this year. It's wild. It's a wild deal. Wild deal. And, you know, the other thing I want to bring up about the Browns is inevitable that we were going to talk about this is the Malachi Corley fucking kickoff return. Dog, what are you doing? I have not seen. That's me high 1 a.m. playing Madden. Dude, he caught the ball and toe tapped it like, you know, a smart player. He puts 1 foot out of bounds and 1 foot inbounds and catches the football. I just am a dumb DN. And I see that shit all the time on TV, and I'm like, do that thing. I know to do the thing. You got one job. Guy toe taps a kickoff return, and then they muff a punt return. It was awful. So yeah, I mean, we're going to talk a lot about, you know, Shedeur Sanders and the rookie quarterback and everything. I'm going to treat that situation like any other situation in the NFL, which is that there's a backup quarterback in the game. And that's not to be reductive or disrespectful. It really it's his second start, and I thought he did some good things, and I thought he did some things that confirmed suspicions. But we will ride the wave with the week-to-week thing with Shedeur Sanders, and I will talk about it every time we break a Cleveland game down. But, you know, like I just am not a fan of like blowing up the discourse to being the front page thing. It's just we don't do it with anything else. It feels like, yeah, it just feels like, and it feels like a trap. So I just want to see the kid. I want to see the kid grow week to week. I don't think he was sabotaged today. I don't think it was anything like that. I think he's playing quarterback in a fucked up situation. And that's why there's a long list of quarterbacks on that list of Browns quarterbacks, you know, since 2000, where the guys have the, you know, the jersey with the 50 names duct tape on the back. Like, hopefully he's not another one of those names, but it is really hard to play quarterback for that team. It just is. And it's not personal. So next week they get the Titans, and he may well end up getting a W again. So we'll see. We'll see. Anyways, I think the last thing I want to talk about, and damn, I missed my chance. It's that game started, Cowboy. We 8-19. The game started. Broncos country, let's ride. Closing out some teasers. This is just not a great day of football. But I want to talk about the Steelers and the Bills. I'm going to be very honest about this game. I know I'm supposed to come out of it, and I am going to come out of it and say, like, hey, that was one-man band Josh, right? Like, they're not going to ask him to throw the ball 50 times. He ends up being the difference of the game with his legs, right? Like, just being able to convert, just being able to churn for the extra yard or two. And this is one of those burn the ships games, right? Like, usually in the Joe Brady era, you're kind of like, okay, Josh, we don't want to run him all game long. You know, this isn't, you know, we need to pick our spots. This is a game where you can't lose another one. And you're down 2 tackles, you know, left and right tackle. You know, you're down Dawkins, you're down Spencer Brown, you're down your number 1 pass catcher in Kincaid. I'm going to be honest, like, I did not see the path for them to win this game. You know, somebody asked me, like, should I bet the Bills? I'm like, no, I wouldn't bet the Bills. I'm not saying I'm betting against them because they're playing the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I would not bet the Bills today because I have no fucking clue with those edges and with this defensive line how Josh is going to be able to pull this one out, right? Josh Palmer's down, right? So they got to throw the ball at Keon Coleman in key situations. You know, that's been a whole thing. You know, Shakir's the guy. You got to take him away. When Cook fumbled that football and Rodgers, they go in and score. They go down 7-3 or 7-0, and they drive all the way down the field. It's fourth down, and I'm like, you got to go, right? Because you had 3 timeouts. You got them backed up. If I was head coach Sean McDermott, I'm going. I agree there. I wouldn't have used the timeout beforehand because I still want to, you know, with 55 seconds to go, you don't get it. The Pittsburgh Steelers are not going to do anything, you know, in the shadow of their own fucking goal line. They thought they were playing a bunch of 2016 football games this year. They were sorely mistaken. They're not built for this. So they're backed up. You got 3 timeouts. Even if you don't get it, you can force them to punt. You can still get a field goal before the end of the half. Like, that's the way I think. So I'm glad that he went, but then the execution is off this pre-snap penalty. They got a kick, and I'm thinking to myself, like, damn, if they go down 14-3 in a game like this, if the Steelers get the ball out of the half and drive down and score a touchdown, Because the concern coming in this game for me was, with the Bills linebacking core, the way it's looked, with Bernard out for whatever that's worth, this is going to be a game where they get peppered with play action, with RPOs. You got people running around like mad dogs in Meat House. It did not end up being that thing. And part of the reason it didn't end up being that thing is because I thought the Steelers had to get really one-dimensional as the game went on. Like, in the second half was just played in the Bills' kind of wheelhouse in this situation. I don't know if the Bills have a defensive wheelhouse, but, like, it doesn't matter who you are. The Steelers are not built to come from behind. And Joey Bosa, the first play of the second half, I talk about, like, what it means to be a mercenary pass rusher. Like, that is absolutely why you bring him there, to make a big play. Now, he's made some big ones so far this year for them. But that play is huge. And it kind of encapsulates the whole day. You force the fumble on the road. You pick the ball up. You run it in for a touchdown. You diminish greatly the Steelers' chances of winning that football game mathematically by scoring on defense. You get a 7-3 lead. And not to mention, Rodgers gets up and his face is bloody. And I'm not going to lie, when you're a defensive lineman, I'm not saying hurt the guy. I'm not saying you root for anybody getting hurt, but, like, you sack somebody and they get up and their face is bloody. Like, that's kind of fucking cool. Did I say a bad thing there? I think to me, I'm like, we just came in your house and took your shit and your quarterback is bloody, bro. That, to me, that's a huge rush. That's a rush that changes, the Bills' fortunes. And you end up in that game kind of cruising from there. It just, the Steelers are too. Here's what I'll say. The Bills, half the league would have felt pretty good about beating the Bills in the current state they were in today. Down all the guys that were down and the way they're playing right now. And I think half the league would have had a good shot at beating them. The Steelers, the reality is, and that's why this breakdown is about the Bills, and, like, Josh was gutsy and everything, and it's fun to watch the big man play football and run around and pump fake people out of their shoes and drag a pile and mix it up with Cam Hayward, and that's all cool. But I think the point of this game, in talking about this game, is the Steelers are not a good football team. They're just not. They're a 500 football team. They're lucky to be 500. They're not going to be a factor in the playoffs. If they get in the playoffs, they will not be a factor. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But what evidence have they given us that they're going to be a factor in January? And honestly, I feel for Aaron Rodgers. I do. I did not feel for him last year in New York. Maybe it was because of, like, the McAfee show, or maybe it was because of, like, I thought he was kind of, I don't know, mean to a guy about a red line. Like, I don't know what it was, But this year I feel bad for him, because if he was in Minnesota, he would be lighting it up. I believe that. I think he would be lighting it up. And I think the Steelers have vastly underperformed on defense. You talk about, we haven't even gotten to this. You give the Bills a lead, they're going to grind you in the nub. They might not give the ball back. That's one of the best things they do, run the football. They ran for 250-plus yards, set a record at that stadium. I mean, that's a bad deal. You talk about coming to your house, your quarterback's bloody, you're giving up a fucking quarter mile on the ground. That's a physical football win for them. And, Josh throws the ball 20 times. It's kind of like when they go beat up Dallas, or they beat up Dallas at home a couple years ago. They think he threw the ball 17, 18 times. Whatever the situation demands. Now, the Bills have been wildly inconsistent. I still want them to show me a lot more than beating the Steelers. Just beating the Steelers is, but they had to do it, and they did it. But the Steelers are not a good football team. And the worst thing about the Steelers is the Steelers are stuck here. Rodgers is on a one-year deal. If I'm Rodgers, I don't want to come back there. I don't want to come back there. When I'm not getting hit, the fucking left tackle's tackling me running off the field. I got no receivers really that I got a good rapport with. Every time, and the longer I've covered football since I played football, as I've learned more about the passing game, right? Where I notice things where I'm like, you know what, that guy isn't in the right place. It's not all in the quarterback all the time. So, I don't think that Aaron Rodgers at this stage in his career should be somewhere like Pittsburgh. And if he wants to play one more year, I would much rather see it be Minnesota. And I'm sorry to be having end of year conversations about Aaron Rodgers or about the Steelers, but like they're not a good football team. And so I'm not going to be one of the ones that keeps saying, well, like, if they do this, if they do that, they're not a good football team right now. And I don't know, man. I doubt Aaron Rodgers would argue with that sentiment. Like he knows. I think the guys on defense know. I don't think they're a particularly good football team. And sucks for football. And what sucks for football is I don't know how they're going to fight their way out of this because Aaron Rodgers is playing them to 8 wins for sure. Like they're going to win 8 wins. They're going to win 8 games this year. And then, they're going to be sitting in the middle in purgatory. And they got a massive payroll on defense. And you're giving up 250 yards on the ground. I don't know. Fuck. It's ugly. What do you think Josh Allen and Hayward did? Well, I'll tell you what I think happened. This is a guess. Josh is riding a pile of bodies and falls down, and Cam Hayward uses Josh Allen as like a stepping stone to get up, not with his foot, but with his giant hand. Like I saw him like kind of push off Josh. And I think Josh might have gave him a little kick to some area of his lower body. I'm not saying I saw that for sure, but like that's the only thing I can deduce because I looked back 5-7 times and I almost thought Cam Hayward helped him up. Didn't he help him up? Was that Cam Hayward helping him up? But the way Cam was mad, the only thing I can think of is a kick, bro. Only thing I can think of is a kick. But I kind of like real beef on the football field, man. Like it was, those guys aren't going to like each other anymore. It's kind of fun. It's kind of the way it should be. John Daly and Tiger Woods met in Charlotte today. And the small prince took care of business, man. Dude, what a day. What a day. I'm lying. That was a shitty day. I mean, even the Seahawks game where it's like maybe a couple things will happen in this game. Here are the ways the Seahawks game could have been entertaining. 1, it's close. 2, Brosmer's actually better than JJ McCarthy. He's not. They don't have any good quarterbacks. 3, Sam Darnold lights them up and it's like a revenge game. He didn't do that. 4, Brian Flores gets revenge on Sam Darnold. He didn't. None of the things happened that could have made that game interesting. It was just a totally uninteresting game. There was some great defensive line play with some great defense being played by Seattle as always. And the game of the day, and I can't wait to talk about it tomorrow, is going to be Jets in Atlanta. Free football up there. Did we forget any football games? I don't want to short my listenership. Saints Dolphins, man. That was a drunk ass game if I've ever seen one. Wino football, dude. Seriously. That was like I turned it on and I saw a guy running a football 100 yards and somebody's like, yeah, it's a 2-point conversion. and then the Saints get the onside kick and get stuffed on a 4th and 1. Crazy shit, man. Oh, you want me to talk about Bears versus Eagles? I'm going to talk about it tomorrow, but I'm going to tell you, shit. Should we do this right now? I'll give you 90 seconds on the Eagles. I get caught in a bad position sometimes because I played for the team and because I do like the Eagles and I do, I've had friends on the team and that sort of thing. And I think as an alumni of the team, sometimes you don't want to appear to single anybody out. And there's plenty of blame to go around. But I look at the offensive coordinator, I think that's a problem. And I look at the quarterback and I think the way he's playing right now is a problem. And that's not to say he's not part of the solution or that he hasn't been great in the past. Every time you hear me talk about Jalen Hurts, what do I say? I say he's a winner because he's a winner. I need to see him be a consistently great quarterback. that's what it's going to demand down the stretch. And I don't know what's going on behind closed doors with the scheme. I think it's obvious that we've detailed a lot of the inefficiencies in their scheme, but the thing I never know is how much of it is, and you can point to other years where you say, well, it's so variable. If you got a good offensive coordinator, it looks like this. If you don't, it looks like that. Well, then he doesn't get to be one of those guys, right? Because we never, great quarterbacks have to play through their circumstance. And if the circumstance you have is two all-world receivers outside and Saquon Barkley in the backfield, like the quarterback's going to get the blame some of the time. And I didn't think he played very well the other day. I didn't. When you got a hot in the red zone and Devontae Smith's right there, you got to make that throw. And, it would be one thing if you're winning the game. We just keep talking about, oh, the team's winning, the team's winning, the team's winning. I've heard that all year. I love the guys, man. I hope they figure it out. But when you lose a game like that, and we'll get to the defense. The defense is a new problem on Thursday. It's not really like the reason I don't lead with the defense, even though it was atrocious run defense, is because we haven't seen that every week. Now, that's going to become a thing where there are going to be certain concepts in that game. Sometimes you play a coordinator that finds your little button, and he presses that little button, and he presses it in front of the whole world, and then other people are like, oh, that's the button right there. I'm going to press that button. And that's the thing I worry about coming out of this game is run concepts that show up and make it hard on that defense. Listen, I got a lot of respect for the quarterback. I had a lot of respect for Jalen Hurts. I just want to make that perfectly clear. I've called him a winner. He's a Super Bowl champion. You can't take that away from him. But this is what have you done for me lately, league, and he hasn't played his best ball. And the offensive coordinator, and Nick Foles made this point on his podcast. I thought was really interesting. He's like, it is so hard to replace a coordinator at this point in the season. You're kind of stuck with what you got. Now, the thing that I think that they could do to help is they could bring in a consultant. Who is that? I thought at times that Mike McDaniel or some bright mind that gets fired might be the guy you bring in, but I haven't really seen that guy pop up on the radar, and I don't know who that guy would be. You look at a lot of these Eagles coordinators that have worked out for them; they're not homegrown, and now you're seeing guys that are homegrown and they're just not working out. And so it's you got problems everywhere. The offensive line's in trouble. You go play Dallas Cowboys, and Dallas Cowboys are supposed to not be a physical group, right? They are offensively, but defensive line play, that wasn't the thing they were going to hang their hat on. And they pressure you into the sun, man. They win that battle. And that's not the way it's supposed to happen. And you watch the run game, there's a lot left to be desired there. So I just think, from a Bears perspective, and somebody said Dayball. I've heard Dayball. Like Dayball's sitting around somewhere. Maybe they take a stab at Dayball. Yeah, the thing I never like is like in the beginning of the season, they went on this wonderful run last year, and it was amazing. And I was like fanboying the whole time because my friends are on that team, like some guys I know. And now it's getting to the point where I only know a couple of those guys. So in a year or two, it's going to be a lot easier to look at this thing, right? But at the beginning of the season, if somebody in the street came up to me in Philly and held me at gunpoint, was like, give me the top 5 quarterbacks in the USA. And I went I don't know, the usual suspects, like Mahomes, Allen Jackson, Burrow, and Matt Stafford or whoever would be the 5th. I don't know, that rotates from you. I would have been bang dead, dude. Somebody would have killed me because we get out over our skis, man. And I don't. Because this game fucking presumably sucks on TV right now. Reed, does it suck? 3-0. 3-0 who? Oh, thank God. Oh, they are. I just figure we'll have a little talky time here, and part of it is because I have the cover to have this conversation because the quarterback has looked bad at times. I just think we get so hyperbolic about everything in pro sports, and if we'd all just said, hey, listen, the quarterback's not a perfect quarterback. You have to build around him, not just with the roster, obviously, because the roster was in pretty good shape when we rolled this thing out this year. And you said, hey, this fucking roster is really good. It's got to be the scheme too, right? And the scheme's got to be dynamic. I don't see them doing the little things, that are creative. When I turn on other games, from the route combinations to the spacing to like bunches and stacks to, the predictability. You got CJ Gardner-Johnson talking about predictability. And then I don't see the quarterback executing sometimes. And so I think it's just fair to say, like, he has to be better. And when he's playing well, he can be the reason you win. He can be a part of the reason you win. But we can't conflate what we see week to week from some of these other guys who just put their team on their back. Like, we shouldn't put Jalen in that situation. And we shouldn't expect him to win in that situation. When the run game is swept out from under him and the scheme's not great, it just kind of looks like a methodical offense. He's a methodical guy who I think plays safe to a fault at times. That's not to say he's not brave or courageous. Love the guy. Fucking winner. He doesn't want to turn the ball over. And there are times in the middle of the field where I'm like, okay, he doesn't want to throw that open, or he doesn't want to wait that extra tick, to throw that deep crosser. And people say, hey, I see things over the middle. It'd be like a skinny post or something, or a comeback. Like, I want to see the throws in traffic in the middle of the field. I want to see mesh concepts. We run as little mesh as anybody in the league, right? I mean, probably. So there's just a lot I want to see that I'm not seeing offensively right now. And the reason I'm kind of having two conversations, I think it's also an interesting fan conversation and media conversation. I don't want to be the guy from Philly who's like, yeah, you know what? I don't think they can do it. But I don't I need to see more evidence, right? The Bears, I talked about the Eagles being in a situation. You watch the Bears offense, there's people moving fast everywhere, dude. There's people moving fast. There's gap scheme shit going on. There's fucking tight ends whamming people. There's pre-snap motion. It's like a living organism. Our offense is on like NyQuil, dude. It's just kind of oozes, and then there's like suddenly a big play. You hit something outside the numbers, or you hit a screen to Saquon. But I just, the Bears, man, and any team like them that's schemed up well, you just see a lot more going on. There's a lot more that when you watch a play and you're like, oh, I see the intent. In that game when the Eagles got a man indicator and opened up the middle of the field and then ran quarterback draw for like 30 yards, I thought that was a great sequence there, and I thought that was a nice play call. There was some creativity to it. I watched Green Bay play on Thursday. They had, Jordan Love had the answers to the test almost every play. Now, he checked them into some very nice run plays. I'm not saying he's got it on autopilot, but Matt LaFleur in that game created motion, short motion, shifts, pre-snap stuff where I'm like, okay, I know what they're in. I know where the ball needs to go. Eagles don't really do that, and the quarterback is a little bit conservative. And the offensive line right now is very human. You talk about the Bears, though. They ran the fuck out of the football. You got some big tight end. You got some people moving people, dude. It was something to see, and that was my biggest concern coming into the football game, is like, if you wind up in a football game in bad weather, windy weather, what have you, Caleb really puts he puts a lot of zip on that football. He can kind of throw the ball through the wind at the intermediate level of the field. There's a difference in the way the ball was coming off his hand, right? And then also the run game, dude. The run game was just too much. So the Bears find themselves in first place, and they are way ahead of schedule. And honestly, dude, I'm not going to do the thing where I say they can't do something, because after a while you kind of got, it's not just who you beat, it's how you beat them. And the way they beat the Eagles, who are a good football team still, good football team, What we're talking about when I speak directly to Eagles fans is like the standard that we know, right? Because I covered the team like north of nationally. Like I lean into that market a little bit. There's a standard that's been set there. They're just not playing to that standard. Are they a tough out? Are they a good football team? Yeah, they're streaky. But the Bears came in and they were businesslike, and they took care of it. So I'll give you a little bit more tomorrow. So I don't know. Since I don't care about this game, I'll give you guys. You got any questions? This is kind of a mailbag. Maybe a question or two that I'll hit tomorrow. Make sure you hit our line. We have a voicemail line. Yeah, we have a voicemail line. We want you to leave voicemails. We don't just want you to leave voicemails where you get on your soapbox about this, that, and third. You can ask us questions too. The landline is the locals landline, 202-991-0723. Presented by Zone. Presented by Zone. Or else. Cowboy Reed's going to hit me with that chair. It's a 2:00 deal. It's a 2:00 deal tomorrow. 2:00 East Coast. I heard Trevor Lawrence had a good game. Hard for me to watch them all. You'll hear about it from Dr. Fax tomorrow. Somebody said, where's Tomlin coach next year? We're not ready for that whole thing. Say what? There were fire Tomlin chants in that stadium? That's a wild deal. That's a wild deal. Anyways, y'all, we will see you tomorrow. Can Cowboy walk regular? That was a question tomorrow. You don't walk regular? Well, you kind of walk on your toes? Oh, yeah. He is, yeah. All right. Y'all take care.